Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan. I'm your host. And today, guys, we are going to be going through the AGC, which is the Associated General Contractors of America, and basically their economic outlook and what's going on within the construction industry. So this got put together by AGC of America, General Contractors Association. And really, I've got the PowerPoint up here that I'm going through, and this will be on YouTube or Spotify. But for everybody else, we'll be talking through it. So effectively, the employment, seasonally adjusted, it's got some percent changes here. And really, I mean, construction is doing pretty well. But the big one that I want to look at here is construction employment is up in most states. There's 10 states that it's down in, and the biggest one is actually West Virginia here with 3.4% in negative, basically construction employment. California, Oregon are down. California 1.3%, Oregon's down 2.1%. Then you have states like Alaska is up 18.9%. Nevada 6.1%, Michigan, Ohio are up 7.5%, Oklahoma's up 8.6%, South Carolina is up 7%. So on the whole, like across the country, as you look at this, states are doing really, really well in the amount of construction employment. Again, West Virginia is down 3.5%, but pretty much, you look at the top five. Alaska's, 19%, Oklahoma 18.6, Ohio 7.6, Hawaii 7.5, Michigan 7.2. So Midwest is super strong, mountain region super strong. The West is really down, as well as the Northeast. Those are kind of the geographic areas that everything's really doing well. In the center of the country, Midwest and the West is down, as well as the Northeast. Next, projects that we can look at and see effectively what's going on. If you've been paying any attention to the news, data centers are obviously strong. Infrastructure is strong, right? Water, sewer projects, power projects, transportation. This is airports, rail, all that kind of good stuff is up. Healthcare, both hospital and they classified as other healthcare, which would be like your primary care centers, exam rooms, things like that are all up. Manufacturing is up. Bridge and highway construction's up. Federal is up, which again, as this was published in January of 2025, we'll see what the federal government is ultimately going to do. I'd imagine that a lot of that spending is going to come down from those guys, but I still see that things like hospital manufacturing, airports, as a lot of those are going to be pseudo private projects, and a lot of them are already underway. That that's going to continue. Warehouses again are up 15%. K-12 schools 15%. But again, the big ones are like data centers, 40%. Is what it's up in 2025. Water and sewers 35%. Again, we'll see how some of these public works projects are going to continue, but power production, so that's probably all things power, distribution, transmission, generation is up 30%, transportation's up 29%, healthcare outside of hospitals 27%, hospitals 24%, manufacturing is 25%, bridges are 24%. Again, we'll leave federal alone and public works projects, but warehouses are 14%, up 14%. Multifamily is 12%, higher ed is 12%. That's an increase. Lodging, so that'll be like hotels, things like that, is up 7%. And then private office is down 3%, retail is down 5%, which will actually be interesting to see. I'm starting to see an uptick in office projects come through, a lot of TIs. Not all of them are massive by any means, but I'm seeing more and more office projects come through, which tells me that there's really a push to do return to office in a way. They're probably not going to be, to 2019 levels of office occupancy, but I'm starting to see some return to office, people wanting to do the office thing, and they'll probably be smaller with more hybrid approaches to things versus everybody being in the office. But again, with 2024, offices were down 24%, and then in 25, the outlook's, it's only down 3, which is a big shift in the other direction for offices. So again, if you're in the office business, I think that's going to be one that we'll see coming. This is the impact on firms' new businesses, have worked on new projects or no impact whatsoever. So new projects are up 18%, one bids not started, 5% have bid on projects, no awards won, 7% plan to bid on projects, nothing suitable available, and then no impact, 30%. So again, I think we're seeing a stronger trend towards projects are starting to hit, and that's their outlook survey based on 1,100 people. So again, I think this is going to be a strong indication that hey, there's more work out there. So expectations regarding headcount and hiring hourly craft workers over the next 12 months. Again, this is totally for the general contractors. So expect headcount to increase. It's 69% of all respondents out of 1,100 people. 69% expect to increase headcount. 10% expect a decrease. And then on hiring, so 12% expect it to be easy to hire. 55% expect hard to hire, and 33% have a no change in hiring. Really what this tells me is in the 55% that are going to find it hard to hire, they have no brand awareness. There's no positive or negative affinity to the brand, or maybe there is a negative affinity in coming to work for your construction company and people don't want to be there. The 12% that it's easier to hire, to me, that's an indication of really good brand identity with your company. With your for you as a contractor, it's going to be easier to hire folks because, again, people want to come and work for you, probably banging down your door to come and work for you. So that 12% of firms that says it's going to be easier to hire and they expect to increase their headcount, again, I think that's just indicative of good brand association, good marketing around what you're doing, the projects you are, and people know that you're a good place to come and work for. Firms' major concerns for 2025. Again, this is all for associate general contractors. So the biggest concern is rising direct labor costs, pay, benefits, taxes, which we'll see what happens on taxes federally. Same with some benefits, things like that. But 62% of all respondents, again, out of 1,100 people, say that basically direct costs are going to be the biggest concern that they have moving forward. Next, at 59% is just not enough folks in the industry, right? Insufficient supply of workers or subcontractors. So this tells me two things. One, opportunity is there. If you're doing good work, showing up, doing everything you're supposed to, you have a great opportunity out there to, again, win a bunch of work, do a bunch of projects, all that kind of stuff. But just know that the insufficient supply is, going to affect timelines, all that kind of stuff. And hand in hand with that is that worker quality, in that we're not holding standards, things like that on projects is a problem, with 56% responding there. Material costs, 54% say that it's a major concern. And then recession and high interest rates are kind of there at the bottom with projects. I think higher interest rates are going to be part of it. Really, that is going to affect more projects within multifamily, higher ed, K-12, public works projects really don't get affected by insurance or interest rates. Offices, maybe to some part. I think a lot of that, because the office space is going to be there, it'll get wrapped up into the lease value. And so isn't quite as of a lending problem there. Same with retail and occupying space. Healthcare, again, hospitals are always building, so I don't see that too much of a deal. Manufacturing, you might just see some smaller projects for manufacturing come through because of interest rates. But as far as economic slowdown, I don't see that as a problem. What you'll have with the tariffs and how things are going to pan out, and we just got to also see, right? There's a lot of fear in the marketplace from tariffs and things like that. Is it'll just shift more and more production into the U.S., which means more building needs to happen to create these manufacturing facilities, so that Build America is first and foremost, and then we can then you don't have to worry about really tariffs or anything like that because it's all produced domestically. And some of this will just take time, but I don't think that is going to trigger any recession or slowdown. I think that'll, in my mind, that's not what's going to happen. But again, that's one man's opinion. So the biggest ones really are just, again, because there's such a shortage of people, they're demanding higher pay, higher benefits, all that kind of stuff, which then leads into, supply of workers, subcontractors at that rate. And then also with that quality, you got to produce good work for these things to be viable. So that's that piece. Wage premium, construction subsector versus total private sector. So premium is average hourly earnings for production and non-supervisory employees in construction compared to private sector, January 2020 through November 2024, seasonally adjusted. So the wage premium for all this, and I think, it's basically like you're comparing this to McDonald's and some shit like that, which I don't know if that's a good comparison or not. But basically in residential construction, as of basically the end of 2024, November of 2024, if you're in the residential trades, you're going to get 11% wage premium. Specialty trades will get a 17% premium. Construction in general gets 18% premium. Heavy and civil is 24%, and then non-residential construction building is 27%. Basically, if you're in commercial construction, you get 27% wage premium, which I think tracks. I don't think this is like a crazy chart, but it's just something good to note that, hey, as construction, you're going to get paid more being in construction than any other industry. So I think doing it as a premium, I think that's a very misleading headline and piece, but hey, that's how they title it. So changing construction material and labor costs 2020 to 2024, year over year change in producer price index for non-residential inputs and average hourly earnings for construction. So PPI for non-residential inputs, that's producer price index. So in December of 23 to December of 24, it went up 0.3%. But since February of 2020, all costs are up 37%, which is the one I think that is the biggest to note, is 37% for all inputs, up over the last 4 years. 5 years now. So really, I mean, that's the big one, is 37% increase in that. And then for average hourly earnings for all employees is up 24%. So you still have a 13% delta between what it costs and what people get paid. That's in there. So again, huge increase in costs over the last from 2020 to 2025, which we'll see if that goes down at all here moving forward. I don't think so, but hey. Inputs bid price changes December of 2024. Again, over the last 58 months, 37% increase in all across the board costs to new non-residential construction. So consumer price index is up 22%. So it's, again, 15% on top of that for any commercial projects. So copper, brass, mill shapes are pretty volatile as well. That's 68% increase in those products from February of 2020 And then steel products are up 44% from 2020. Diesel fuels up 52% from 2020. So again, a lot of huge volatility in projects. The only thing I can say is so steel and diesel, they're down a little bit here towards the end of 2024, coming into 2025. But again, volatile products, that price can go up tomorrow. So change in construction spending. So total construction from November of 23 to November of 2024, inflation adjusted, seasonally adjusted. Basically, we're seeing total construction up 3%. Data centers being a huge driver in that, they're up 43%. Manufacturing's up 11%. So basically, if you're in data centers, manufacturing, those are very good industries to be in right now. Oil and gas is up 5%, which is another good one to be in. So power apparently includes oil and gas. Education's up 3% as well. Healthcare is down 1%. Commercial and private office are also down a little bit, but again, on the whole, I think construction's doing well. And the whole thing with like commercial offices, things like that, is going to be very dependent upon where you are and the types of projects that you're going after. So I think offices again will have some bit of a rebound. It's not going to be a strong market sector, but if you're in TIs, it's not going to be terrible. But it's not going to be great either by any means. Manufacturing is going to be the big driver, and obviously data centers, especially they're very big projects. So really, if your labor force can handle data centers, good luck. But manufacturing is probably going to be your best bet for everybody else. So there's a bunch of other stuff here and changing construction by subcategory, whatnot. Again, I think on the whole, with construction up 3%, it's a very good indication. Hospital, so breaking down healthcare a little bit, and it's minus 1%. Hospitals up 6%. Medical buildings, so MOBs, are down 13%, with specialty care up 14%. So MOBs are going to be basically the one that aren't going to be built. But other specialty care like surgery centers, stuff like that, is going to be, I think, up. Public office is up 10%. Commercial so warehousing is down 13. Retail is down 9. Farm is up 11. Higher education's up 5%. So that's the big driver in education. Electric power for utilities, it's up 7%. Oil and gas is down 11%. And then manufacturing, computer and electronics are up 7%. Chemicals up 12%. Transportation equipment is up 25%. Food, beverage, and tobacco is down 4%. And again, we'll see with a lot of the regulations what get put in and how that affects food producers here moving forward. The big ones that I think are going to get affected by the federal government is going to be renewables. Really all the federal grant funding and stuff like that for solar, EV, and all the funding goes away for some of that. It'll have a big impact upon solar. Again, tariffs and stuff like that, I don't know how that's going to play out. It seems like, Mexico, Canada bowed to the US's demands there. So I don't think that'll be too big of a deal. Immigration, deportation. I don't see that, again, as being too big of a thing. Some people might disagree, but I think we'll be okay in that sector. Single family, multifamily, again, that's going to be a big interest rate piece as home developers are led by spreadsheets. But again, I think in the other sectors like data center, power infrastructure, manufacturing, those are all going to go up. Yeah, we're going to have some labor costs increase, but again, with the just huge demand for manufacturing, things like that is going to be huge. Population changes by state. So this is kind of an interesting chart, and what's in here, you have big population growths in the plus 1%, 2% in the Southeast. So Florida is 2%. That's the big one. Um, Georgia, at 1, South Carolina 1.7, North Carolina 1.5, Tennessee 1.1%, Texas 1.8%. And then you're seeing, influxes into Idaho, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, Oregon, Colorado, or Oregon, Wyoming, New Mexico lost each 0.4%. Wisconsin lost 0.5%. Louisiana lost 0.2%. Pennsylvania lost 0.5%. So again, kind of a migration a little bit west. California stayed at 0.6%. And then most of the Midwest from the Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas were all like 0.5% as well. Very little change in them as well. So really, that's the big economic pieces here. And I think the big things to take away from this whole deal is total construction is up 3%, right? Some of that's going to be driven by just price increases in general, because this is in construction spending. So while I don't have a chart for the number of construction starts, really we're seeing a lot of data centers. It's not probably it's an okay time to be in multifamily, but I wouldn't depend on that sector moving forward. And then really, again, construction's going to do good. We're going to have more manufacturing. I think that's going to be the big driver here moving forward. And then there's going to be a lot of power plants getting built. And then from there, healthcare, hospitals are always under construction. So if you've got any of those contracts, I'm sure that you'll continue to build them. You just might not build as many medical office buildings and things like that. So again, that's the economic outlook here for the start of 2025. I thought it would be important to do this, but a lot of it at the end of the day, as you can see by, some of the national charts and graphs, very much depends on where you are, right? Depends on the projects that you're working in, the geographic areas that you're in, and then who you're kind of tied to and have contracts with and partnerships with. So while, it's good to look at these macro trends of industries and sectors, there's still going to be areas and sectors of the country that are going to do really well, even in a quote bad market sector. Office space will probably do really well in some communities and areas and do really badly in others. And the same for, K-12, right? If you've had bond referendums passed in the fall, then those projects will move forward because you passed your bonds. Healthcare, again, if you're in an area with kind of older infrastructure, it's probably time to redo those hospitals, and you're going to see a lot of big hospital projects being built. So again, I think it's very much dependent geographically, the area of the state or the country that you're in, and then the contacts and contracts that you have. So guys, that's going to be this episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I know it's been a while, been just pounding away at projects, doing a lot of teaching now for the ABC, Associated Builders and Contractors Association. And you'll hear more about that in the weeks to come. So thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in. And until next time.